Job losses in the construction sector. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my morning stein of coffee and I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au just discussing the slowdown in the construction sector and the potential for thousands of job losses. Now before we go through this article, let's just jump over here and look at a few things to give us a bit of a broader perspective. We'll jump to this document. This is Digital Foundations, How Technology is Transforming Australia's Construction Sector. And it's a publication, Startup Oz, and then there's a few others. Aconex. It's a good reference in here. You can go through it if you want, I'll link to it. Particularly about our construction sector, the Australian construction sector. So it's great just to give us an overview of this sector, because if we're discussing a slowdown in construction, and there's going to be potential job losses there, we need to understand the potential scale of this. And just keep in mind, retail employs about 10% of Australia's workforce, and just as a peg. So before we get into this, I'll take a shot of coffee to power me up. So it's 8.1% of Australia's GDP. The Australian construction sector is the largest non-services sector of the Australian economy, accounting for 8.1% of GDP. Construction employs 1.1 million Australians, more than 5 times as many as the mining industry. A further 100,000 jobs are projected to be added by the sector over the 5 years to 2022, with employment growth forecast to 10.9%. Now this is a couple of years old. It's still good to give us an overview, but maybe these forecasts aren't right. What were they predicting? I mean, the basis of this news article we're reading is, once again, the RBA was surprised by the slowdown in the construction sector. It's just, these models that they're using aren't very good, are they? If every month they're getting surprised again and again. So BCG estimates that global full-scale digitization in non-residential construction could... Okay, this is then talking about their digitization, and we'll just scroll down, because that's the whole point. It's technology changing the industry. So the market share, 134 billion. 4% is industrial, 5% is mining, 14% community, 16% commercial, 20% flats and units, and 41% civil engineering. Now remember, this one here occurred during this period here in Australia, when our 14 to 16, it was just starting to come off the foreign investment in the apartment sector. So just bear that in mind. So I mean, this document is dealing with digital and technology in the construction industry, so definitely would be interesting to go through, but it gives us an overview of the scale of the workforce and the percentage of GDP. So 8% of GDP, 8.9% of the Australian workforce. So let's jump back now, and I'm just going over here to find the screen. We'll jump back now to this article, because it's important to have this in perspective, because remember, construction may be 8.9% of the workforce, but there's multiple sectors in it, from mining through to civil. And right now civil is running very hot because of all of the infrastructure projects, and if we saw yesterday, the danger is of the broken window fallacy and some of those. But we also have to realize there's the other side, all of the retail sector that is supplying this industry. The supply side as well, if that has a slowdown, it just trickles through, because we don't really have any manufacturing anymore in Australia. It's not the scale as it was in the past. So if you think these type of videos are important, please share them with your friends and family, just to make more people aware and to have a bit of a broader understanding of these things. When people are saying infrastructure projects will save Australia, we've got to understand, guys, that's only going to be one portion of this workforce. It's only going to be one section here, and sometimes your skills in these other sections can't transfer across to this one. It's not as transferable as you would think. There's a lot of differences between a major civil work and a domestic apartment in the city. You probably actually have to put your concrete in properly in a major civil project. You can't just bodge it up, hey? Good old Sydney construction. So The Reserve Bank has sounded a rare warning about huge falls in a vital sector of the Australian economy. Here's who has the most to fear. The Reserve Bank has sounded a rare double warning that feels like it could only happen in Australia. A slowdown in building is hurting the economy badly, the central bank says, yet paradoxically, another price boom could be set to explode. Well, if you have a look at the video done by Martin North and John Adams and Edwin, and on there in the interest of the people recently with regards to the housing boom, they raised some questions as to the media reporting on that, and I would encourage you to do that, and I will put a title card up to that video right now if I can remember it. I'm just writing down the time. So yeah, it's an hour long, but it's definitely worth it. When I was surprised because I didn't realize the ABS housing price index was based on external data. I thought it would be delayed and generated from the actual stamp duty information. But there we go. Learn something new every day. YouTube's good for something. The first and most urgent warning is about the construction slowdown. It is more intense than the Reserve Bank of Australia expected, the Deputy Governor admitted on Thursday. So once again, the RBA is surprised. We'd expected construction activity to remain at a pretty high level for most of the year, but it turned down sooner and by more than we expected, Guy DeBell said. Why? Why did they expect it to remain at a high level for most of the year? We've been having all of these confidence issues with regards to just the building sector. I mean, we have a look here. This is consumer confidence. Or consumer sentiment, same thing. It's heading down drastically. In our own sector, particularly in the apartment sector, which is really the first home for a lot of people, a lot of opportunity to get there, that's been decimated by repeated issues around the whole country. Why are they thinking it would continue? Why are they thinking? What is the driving force to this? Is that population growth? We can see here our foreign investment into the building sector, which was driving it, has disappeared. So what would be driving? Why would they think it's at a high level? I don't understand. Can someone let me know in the comments why they think it's a high level? Maybe they have made some assumptions. Maybe they'll go to it later in the article. I'm having trouble seeing why. I mean, we've got infrastructure projects throughout Australia, but they're mammoth pieces of work. Are they going to cause such a demand for housing? Is the guys working on a tunnel here or there or a road, is that going to cause a demand for housing there? What else would it be? Maybe they're hoping Hong Kong would become an over. I don't know. Many households in this country depend on someone who works in construction or in a related industry. As construction slows down, jobs will be lost. Well, he's right there. The housing downturn is already biting. We are building less already, as the next graph shows. Investment in new high and low density housing has fallen, as well as alterations and additions. Well, yeah, there you go. We're starting to see it go. Look at high density. Look at that fall in high density there. And, I mean, confidence is just shattered. It's just shattered. But there is still a long way to fall for high-density projects if they're going to return to their old levels. Yeah, that's the thing. Look at this. From 2015 to here, we'll bring my favorite chart as well. Maybe there's a correlation there. Wonder what could be driving. On this chart here, you can't. I'm putting my mouse over the software I'm using to stream or record, and you can't see it. So. What correlation could there be between these two things? I wonder, driving that second. I've drawn over this thing, so it's too hard to bloody read. But you see what I mean. So I would theory craft that this foreign investment is what's overheated the sector. And if this is the natural level here, what's that change? What are our bars here? Billion. Okay, so we're going from what, 7 billion back down to 3. That's 50% reduction in higher density, and that's 20% of that sector. That's going to have a big impact, and that will also drive more of the people working in this sector into the attached and additions and alteration sector. That will drive down the price in there as well. It'll flow through. But it's worrying. It is. So And if you look at building approvals, they suggest high density will fall hard when it falls. As the next graph shows, high density building approvals are back at 2012 levels. Oh, well, there you go. We're back at this levels. Building approvals are like a crystal ball for the construction market. They let us see the future because you have to get a project approval before you can build it. And what we see in the crystal ball is a distinct absence of activity. I think any of the professionals in design, documentation would not be surprised. I've talked to a few people, a few mates in the tradies, that it's slightly picked up now before Christmas, which is a good sign. And I'm hoping the unemployment remains as it is until Christmas, so we can get a hit to the retail sector just to delay the RBA from putting in QE, and then a miracle could happen. Maybe I'm being naive, guys. Maybe I'm trying to have a positive spin on it, but yeah, probably just be naive. I need my coffee. So, I mean, look at this, guys. Look at the total number. Look at that fall. Bloody hell. Big fall and soon. We are forecasting a further 7% decline in dwelling investment over the next year, and there is some risk the decline could be even larger, Dr. DeBella said. That is a huge fall for a vital sector in the Australian economy. 6% of Australians working in a construction-related industry, the RBA said. Okay, so it's gone down from the last data I looked at. My report is out of date from 2016. What does that tell you, guys? The residential construction sector has linkages to the business service sector through architects, go architects, draftspeople, go drafties, construction engineers, go engineers, and to the manufacturing sector through steel, bricks, etc. Yes, yeah, it does. It certainly does. Construction workers who are self-employed or work in smaller firms have the most to fear. Yes, that's the thing. So it's all the small business people have the most to fear. Guys, what are you doing? Let me know in the comments. If you're an architect, drafty, engineer, working for yourself, what are you doing to prepare for this? I mean, you'd be shocked if you're not planning for it. Everyone's kind of getting the vibe. The future projections slow down a bit. You might get a little blip here and there, but yeah, my strategy has been simplifying our business, cutting our costs down to virtually nothing. I went through, we got rid of the office, we cut the staff, really culled right back. I was going down to a fine-tooth comb to every single thing I could cut. I almost got rid of my Office 365 subscription. I was going to go to the open office, but it was just too much of a pain, guys. So let me know in the comments your drastic saving measures. What have you done? So the outlook for smaller contractors, which are quite prevalent in the housing sector, is not so great in the period ahead, the doctor said. If I ran a crane hire business, for example, I'd be worried. The cranes on the horizon of our capital cities are getting higher and higher as the buildings they are constructing are getting taller and taller and closer to being finished. When they pack up, there won't be much to come for quite some time. Of course, many construction industry workers have a good set of skills. They can go into other work on infrastructure projects or other industries. The question is, how many of those jobs will there be? The RBA has admitted we're a long way from full employment. Okay, so maybe my hopes of avoiding QE this side of Christmas are naive, because our RBA is talking more and more and no negative interest rates. So price rises are back. There's still more bad news about this economic downturn. The RBA is forecasting it won't come with any relief on house prices. Quite the opposite, in fact. The RBA's second warning is this. House prices are going to bounce back because the fall in construction is going to lead to a shortfall in housing. Demand is still continuing to increase given population growth. Prices have turned in Melbourne and Sydney. They're not Perth or Darwin, which probably brings investors back into the market. Okay, you need to look at that video by the boys on Interest of the People. Look at Adams and North's, their take on that, because the RBA is basing this assumption on the ABS data, which is based on one data set where, yeah. I mean, I know I've talked to people in the industry. I'm not as well connected as the lads are. But think about it. Think about it. Who's putting that data into a lot of these things? Sure, there's lots of things, but let's just focus on one little aspect. It's real estate agents, isn't it? You know, they're taking the property off. They're typing in, oh, I sold it for this. Ha, ha, ha. Do you trust them? Do you trust them? You think they may not fudge the numbers a little bit? I know on my mother's house, it was put into the database at the originally negotiated price. Then when we had to give up a bit of money because of my mother broke an oven, a few other things, she was cleaning it. She cleaned that house like you wouldn't believe. She broke the glass in the oven. We had to give them discounts. That didn't appear in the data, did it? Just little things like that. You know, half right. Half right. Maybe I need to take my tinfoil hat off. Sure, completely trustable. Trustable, that's the word. I need a coffee, guys. It's too early. And this is worrying me. So, rising demand in an environment of low building activity sows the seeds of the next boom. The growth in demand without a meaningful supply response will lead to a larger price response, he said. This is a paradoxical situation. It feels like it could happen in Australia. House prices surging while the economy slowly dwindles away. It's like the smell of eucalyptus in the morning breeze or the surf crashing on Bondi Beach. It's quasi-essentially Australian. Tim Winton should write a book about it. Isn't that called stagflation, guys? How long can it go on for? For how long can we have these two lines on the graph moving apart from each other? If they do eventually come back together, which one moves? Does the economy catch up, or does housing prices collapse back? Here's a question. Why is Australia's population growing? Just let me know in the comments why. Maybe we need to look at reducing immigration for a couple of years. You know, really drastically cutting it. And this is coming from a first-generation Australian, guys. My father came over when he applied for, what was it, America, South Africa, Argentina, Australia. Australia was the first one to take him. Maybe it's time we slow it down for a little bit while our economy is going in trouble to reduce that demand on that sector. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Let me know how you're preparing for this. Are you seeing it in your own game? You know, the first to see it will be the professionals. Then the tradies will cop it. That's how it is. And then it will flow through to the suppliers. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me for this episode. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to my new patrons. I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much. For those of you that want to help support the channel and help me make this type of content, I have a Patreon and Subscribestar and other methods. Every little bit helps. Just makes it a little bit easier for me to justify spending time on this to the wife. Anyway, guys, take care, and I will talk to you later.